Welcome back to Games Revealed. I'm James and also The Brink, and we are one community. Today I have something especially special for you guys, especially Steam Deck fans out there, because I think we're in for some good trending news on games supporting Steam Deck. On top of that, I do have a proposal at the end of this that is going to be pretty exciting and something that I'm going to be, it's a personal project that will, I think, affect all of the Steam Deck community. But I'm going to announce it at the end, so make sure to watch the whole thing, and then you can give me your comments at the end also, or whenever you want. So this whole thing is regarding a GDC poll, and this poll polled a bunch of developers that are essentially on the GDC mailing list. So GDC, the conference itself, happens in around March. And then they have, I believe, a more online version of it that happens in the fall. And so there's thousands of developers that are working on projects, AAA, indie, whatever it is. And the poll is very good for us PC gamers. 80% of the developers mention they are working on PC as for their game, their current project, whatever game's coming out in the future, or maybe they're porting something, they are working on PC. So this could mean a game that's going to be released both on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, or it could be an exclusive to PlayStation, but then it's going to come to PC. 80% is massive. And just to give you a reference, let's go over this poll. The next one is PlayStation 5 at 38%. Followed by Xbox Series X, 34%, which that's actually pretty good. These aren't exclusive, so it could mean a lot of different things. I'd really like to see this also like as an exclusive chart, but it is what it is. Android and iOS, surprisingly really high, so a lot of mobile developers going. There's a lot of money in mobile development too. Mac, 23, which I thought was actually pretty surprising too. That means there's more support coming to Mac also, which I know Apple is pushing for they're pushing hard to try to get more games to be compatible on it. And they have the hardware to do it, to be fair. Now, a funny one on here, and you'll have, if you're watching this, there's one called Linus. So whoever made this chart has a typo. But yes, Linus Tech Tips is making a new platform. Apparently, this is how he announces it. It's separate from the PC. And so, but really it's Linux. So Linux, 12% still targeting. That's pretty good. That could fall in line with Steam Deck, maybe. And then we got like some, like Switch 2 it only has 8%, which is actually really low. It's kind of shocking, but I have a feeling that is going to change soon. And they even have Playdate on here. Like, it is a pretty good little list of games that will be supported on multiple devices. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is that this is a very good thing for Steam Deck. What's even better is if we can standardize some things so that we're going to talk about, including how devs are even talking about the Steam Deck more and potentially supporting it more, or at least the conversation goes there sometimes, which is good. And even if you're not the biggest Steam Deck fan, let's say you have one or you like it and respect it, but you still play on like a beefy PC all the time, I think there's still room for this being a very good approval step, or like a base target to hit is the Steam Deck, because then it affects everything else. Your games will run better, optimized for the deck and the resources on the deck, but still optimized for 4K and all that also. But I think the optimizations for 4K will go along much better if we optimize for the Steam Deck. My proposal is to create like a certification program, something that's more community-based, not so much tied to Steam, because games can release not on Steam, but still work on the Steam Deck. And I think there's other launchers that we could get into, like I've been working on one on and off for years that could support it, where you just got to install it once and then it kind of just melds into the Steam OS's game mode. So there is a lot of room, I think, for improvement, because the certification program that Valve has on Steam is decent, but it runs into a lot of issues where I don't think it's so much automated as they do run a test suite. And I think it's thorough, but even over time, games can become pretty much kind of delisted from that, even though it says it works. if it's not popular enough, they might not go back and make sure it does still work on the Steam Deck, and it doesn't, but it might say so, or it would technically fall into playable, not fully approved or working. And so there's some room to work there, I believe. And I think I have a tool that we're going to talk about a little later that could help with that. So yes, we need a tool, but in order to create a tool, we need to know what we're kind of like benchmarking, what we're kind of, what would you expect to be the perfect kind of like specs or like targets for the game to be running. So we're going to talk about we're going to talk about that, because I think this is one of the most important things we could talk about in 2025 when it comes to Steam Deck gaming. There's plenty of other things that are probably more important in the world right now, but this is fun and something that we can all agree on, I think. So I'm going to ask you guys, and I want you guys to comment, and you can wait until after I go through my list, but I want you to comment on what you'd like to see in a certification like program, like in a certificate of approval or whatever we're going to call it, like gold, silver, platinum, or whatever we want to call this system. This is a system I've been wanting to work on for a while, but I think I'm going to finally I want to solidify some points, and I would love your help with this. So in the comments, please let me know what you'd like to see, and we could probably wiggle it in there on a different, because it will be a tier-based system. And I think a tier-based system is going to be the best way to do this, with the lowest tier still working fine for most, but then the highest tier working the best for everyone. And so I think a tier-based system is the best for this, because just some games you're never going to be able to optimize it to be like a platinum level, let's say. So first off, like FPS, what's the minimum FPS? What's the maximum FPS? What's the consistency? Because that's probably the most important thing. You don't want your game going from 30 to 50 to 30 and jumping around a lot. You want like a percentile of 40%, let's say 95% of the time. That's usually how benchmarks oftentimes work too. They'll say, oh, it dipped this many times as a percentage, and then it also went this high as a percentage. But you want to, even like until you get above, I believe 60, maybe even 100 frames, the dropping, even if let's say it's from 60 to like 35 a lot, you'll notice that in your gameplay, and it's really frustrating. It's better to have consistency than it is to have high half the time and then low the other half. It's gonna be very janky and all that. So consistency is key, and so targeting a certain FPS is the best way to do it, I think. And then setting that limit through like the Steam Deck's system or through an artificial system on the game. I think ray tracing support is needed, in the sense of, does it support it at what level? I know that there's only probably one or two games that support ray tracing on the deck in a playable way. But with the Steam Deck 2, this will be a thing that we will need to talk about. And then FSR is also, I think, another important topic to take into account. Like, how much are they using FSR on this? If they're using it in a very like FSR performance mode all the way up, you get a lot of artifacting from that, and that would probably bump it down to, let's say, like a bronze or silver level kind of tier. I think that's also important, where if FSR is being used with very little artifacting and frame generation and upscaling and all that, it's a balancing act, and that's what's important about this whole thing, and that's what will make making a tool difficult if you put something, let's say, ray tracing on FSR. But the tool could evolve over time. A couple other points we could talk about is like, does the game launch? What's the compatibility? Do you have to play around with Proton? The game has to launch seamlessly on SteamOS. It needs to have, without any like weird tweaks. No one wants to dig through forums just to get a game running. Like, I don't think anyone else does. Like, there's tools already that kind of help with this, but I'll be honest, it's fun to play around with this stuff, and I've done a lot of videos in the past to help, but it gets redundant and it gets annoying, and my engineering self wants to fix the problem. I don't like to repeat myself. If I want to play a game, I want to play a game. I want it to work. And so I see patterns forming from all this, and we can fix that through engineering. funny enough. So it's a fun problem, and it's something that I like to seek out. Now, performance standards, like I said, stable frame rates are key. 30 frames per second minimum for most games, 60 frames for those competitive or action-packed ones. And hey, medium to high graphics at 1280 by 800, that's the sweet spot. Of course, upscaling is another thing, but like, how well does your game run natively without any extra support could be a play in like the Platinum. Let's say Platinum. If it's Platinum, that means it's going to be running the best FPS for the type of game it is at a native resolution without any help. Gold could still be like, it looks great, but it has to have assistance. And so there's stuff that we can play with this, obviously. Display and graphics. Does the game scale to DeX 16 by 10 screen without weird black bars or squish visuals, et cetera, et cetera? Most games don't have this problem these days, but I think it's a good metric to put in there. Steam Deck controls need to work out of the box. Bonus points if the game takes advantage of the Deck's gyro or trackpad for smoother gameplay. Like input is really important. Does it work well with the input of the Steam Deck and maybe PlayStation 5 controller? That's another thing that could be another like little added on tier for it, is that this controller has really cool force feedback or adaptive triggers is what they are. And it's fun. It makes it really fun. And then you'd be shocked at how many games actually support this, even on the Deck. And then, stability and reliability, I think, is a key one. Like a couple of these are like secondary and would be like, if they're not perfect, would be notched down into like silver or gold or bronze or whatever. But stability and reliability, if it's not stable, if it crashes even once throughout a session, then it needs to be knocked down to probably bronze. If it crashes more than once and it's a consistent behavior, it needs to be not approved until that's fixed. So it's stuff like that that will probably be the biggest issue. And if you're in the middle of like a really intense boss battle, if you're in the middle of a really intense scene, especially later on in the game when assets can pile up on the screen and overload the deck, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a great example of this, that needs to be noted in there. So not only does it play good in the beginning, it plays good at the end. Audio quality does it run great on speakers, headphones? Is there any issues with the dialogue? That is important, but usually not a problem with the Steam Deck, I would say. Maybe older games, but not newer games. So that's, once again, another minor thing, but should probably still be checked. Installation and updates. The games gotta install cleanly, fit nicely on precious storage, and update without breaking everything. And yes, SD card support counts. And of course, I don't think... This is one where it should probably be an addendum kind of badge where you could even get platinum if you have to run it on the NVMe, but it has to be on the NVMe, because there's some games that are built for fast storage retrieval, and that's fine. That's for like streaming in new levels and everything. It is really difficult, and we shouldn't limit developers, honestly, at the end of the day. So there needs to be addendums to this, or like little exceptions, but also praise if they worked really hard to make sure it works on an SD card. And is it like optimized? Is it Call of Duty where you can't even fit it on essentially the 256 gigabyte version of the Steam Deck? Like, that's optimization is a key thing, and that needs to be noted. Like Call of Duty, even if it ran perfect and everything else, if you cannot install it on one of the base devices with 256 gigabytes, like that needs to be knocked down and probably be like a silver level and with an addendum of poor storage. Accessibility features, I think, are important. Adjustable graphics, customizable UI, difficulty options make it a big difference. But not just for performance, but also supporting inputs for people that are disabled and stuff. So I think adjusting the graphics would be nice, but having a preset's even better. And that would also be a good note to have on the tier-based system that we'd have. Suspend and resume. Can the game handle the Steam Deck sleep mode? Being able to pick up where you left off is a quality of life feature that's a must-have, and most games support this because of SteamOS and its ability to suspend and resume. But there have been games I've played, and I haven't played them in a while, so I'm curious if maybe Valve fixed this in SteamOS, but I'm curious if this has been fixed for those games, or if this is something that needs to be caught in this badge system that we're creating. Multiplayer and anti-cheat. Does it play online? Is it the key of the game, like the key part of the game? I think that's important. I personally, curious what you guys think. I personally think if it's a game like Ghost of Tsushima where it has an online mode, but it's not supported because of, I believe, anti-cheat that's on it, does not work. And so they say that Ghost of Tsushima does not work on the Steam Deck, even though at least what I've played of it on the Steam Deck, I haven't played all of it. I need to play more. It plays great on the Steam Deck and actually looks pretty good because of FSR. That being said, I don't agree with the concept that, oh, well, this game is not supported if everything's not supported. There needs to be addendums to this and like exceptions. So let's say if I would put Ghost of Tsushima like as a gold, because the base game is the single player, not the multiplayer. So I'd put it in as gold and then have an addendum off the side, single player only. And then maybe have a little description that says multiplayer is not supported at this time. I would probably do that, or maybe even silver. But the base game, and I don't care about the multiplayer. And when I'm trying to shop for a game, that's important. Is that now we flip it on the other side, multiplayer only. Like if it's, let's say, Fortnite, then of course not supported. It doesn't get a badge at all because it does not work on the deck. And it's kind of I'd almost even name and shame kind of thing. Not saying like got to be mean or rude or like toxic about it, but say, hey, you're not supporting the deck on purpose because they're not supporting it and they are doing it on purpose. Then kind of just call them out like, hey, you're missing out on a lot of people that are going to be moving more and more to the SteamOS system, whether it be through let's say like a Steam Machine kind of style of games, because SteamOS is coming out this year. This is going to become more and more of an important thing. And Valve is working on badges too for hardware, but I want to see more games while they're in development using a benchmark tool to check for all this stuff. So Fortnite, get your, I know it's Epic and I know there's like a lot of things with this, but just understand that like SteamOS and handhelds even are becoming the future. And I think they're going to start docking into TVs and other systems more to where you're going to be getting a huge split in the PC gaming world. Honestly, a huge split, even to the point of like, I could play Counter-Strike on, let's say, a Legion Go 2, probably at like 120 frames per second on that if I hook it up to my screen here or controller, but I'd prefer to have mouse and keyboard with some like Counter-Strike, let's say, because I'm just more, I'm typically, everyone's better with the keyboard and mouse than with a, controller, in the sense of like, it's just not fair if you're going to go against, for competitive reasons. We don't need to go any deeper into that. We've talked about tiers of certification, or however we're going to name it. Not all games will pass with flying colors. So here's how it will break down in my mind. Platinum, everything works perfectly. All our benchmarks, everything's just like, okay, this is just a great game. Doom would most likely fit this really well. But then you have gold, fully optimized, runs flawlessly, and takes full advantage of the deck's features, but still could have some missing things like maybe multiplayer. If it's not a purely multiplayer game, it's mostly a single player, and multiplayer does work or doesn't work, but it's not like a key part. Then I'd still probably put that in the gold or silver. But you have to have reasons why, kind of like a ESRB rating where they have reasons. I think we need more certifications like this for games running on hardware. Especially SteamOS. Silver, playable with some minor tweaks like adjusting resolution or settings. Bronze, it runs but don't expect a perfect experience without some effort. And we could even go on and on with the tiers, but I definitely don't want to overcomplicate it, like 3 to 4 tiers at the most. So there you have it. The ultimate checkoff list for like a Steam Deck certification program, whether you're a developer looking to optimize your game or a gamer hoping your favorite to make the cut. This list covers everything that makes a game truly deck ready. What do you think? Should Valve make something official like this, or should we work on it as a community? They already have something similar to this, but I don't like how some games are like Ghost of Tsushima. It's not approved. Like it's not supported. I don't like that because I think the game's amazing. And I think people are going to have a fun time on the game on Steam Deck, especially if you don't care about multiplayer. I mean, don't get me wrong. It'd be great, maybe, but I want to play the game first and then maybe I'll get to the multiplayer later, but noting it is probably the most important part. So a benchmark tool is what I've been talking about, and let's talk about this a little bit more. I've been doing some research into a tool that I can create that will help developers at least test their game out to see how well it's going to work with the resources and some of the functionality that the Steam Deck has. That being said, I am going to continue working on this tool throughout the year, and I will update you further on how complicated. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to release this as a very simple tool in the beginning and then work on it like iteratively, or try to release it as like a more complete suite. It is not going to be my main project, but it's going to be a project that is going to be a passion project for me. So it's something that's important, something I've talked about for years. And I think with some good research, I can at least add it into my Deck Revealed project, which is a game launcher slash app manager system. But I think bare minimum, I can get it to where it could test performance levels, which is, I think, a big part of all this. So, but if it gets more interest or people support the project more, and I will have more on gamesrevealed.com when that goes up on this project, I will be having ways for people to support it if that's something that they're interested in. So yeah, that's it. I want to know what you guys think about both a project like this, because you could run it. I mean, technically you could use it, but it would be marketed more for the game developers. And before they release, we could have a little badge, how you have it out at the bottom. It's like, it runs great on this GPU or this CPU. We could have a whole column that just says Steam Deck and kind of like a little bit of a couple of points on the Steam Deck, and that having been not even the minimum spec, but like the recommended spec. And then the minimum spec would be a little lower than that. But I think that's a good way to do this and to get a better experience in the PC gaming world and the optimization world of all this. So that's what I think. I want to know what you think in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Check out all my goodies down below and support me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll check you guys out next time. Peace out. Later.